Why do you feel stuck even when you know so much? It's not your stuck, it's your state. For builders who nailed the tech and now face the rest, this is UNCODED, translating tech into profit. Hi everyone, and welcome back to UNCODED, the show where we explore what really drives performance and growth for founders. Today's guest is Nino Fincher, a therapist, a peak performance coach who helps decision makers rewire how they think and act, ending unwanted behaviors and unlocking clarity through her unique rapid therapy approach. She is two-time TED speaker, an expert in anxiety, PTSD, and a licensed purpose factor coach. Nino, thank you very much. I know that I've been so happy to have you here. Welcome, and
it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So first topic that I would like to discuss with you is this word that is very used nowadays, that is the word mindset. I found the expression mindset a little bit misleading because it seems to be a static phenomena, which is the result of a process that goes on and on for years, probably. So I would like to understand from you what you think, from your perspective.
Yes. As with every definition, in my opinion, it helps to get clear on what somebody means when they say something. Otherwise, we say things and just kind of there's no connection between the two because you are using the same word, but you mean one thing and I mean something completely different. And I agree that the word mindset has been misused, overused, and just kind of produced and overused too much. When I think of it from my point of view, I think of it as mind flow, not mindset. Because I think that a mind actually can be compared to. Have you ever seen the flock of birds? You know, when there's many birds and they just kind of move in this beautiful and they expand and they shrink and then they change the form. That's really kind of what the mind does. And so when people talk about mindset, they usually discuss the worldview or the perception about a specific thing. But to me, it's a broader concept. And I think when you think about what people mean by mindset is how does your mind engage and operate and perceive things and determine what things are and how the reality is, and based on that, how are the decisions made then impact you and the outside world.
Very nice. Very, very nice. So what is the process by which we actually use our mind or our brain? I know that there is a lot of discussion between using mind and using brain as a topic, as a word, but how do we think? What is the process, our mental process? How do we?
So the brain, obviously, it's a physical entity. It's the part of the body that it engages with all the other systems that are part of a human body. Mind is a lot broader, and mind affects the way the brain responds and the way the brain creates chemicals and the way the brain uses synapses and nervous system that engages and is attached to the brain. When I talk about my coaching program and discuss how I help people, the way I see it is that we are created with the body, heart, mind, and spirit. And those are the aspects that make us human. And if any of them are dismissed or not paid attention to or somehow disengaged from helping ourselves or somebody that we're helping as a whole, then we're missing out on something. And I think, as a believer, I'm a believer in Christ. And so a lot of my perspective and my point of view is informed by how Christ sees a human condition and what he says the reality is. And because of that, I believe that we are influenced by the Spirit, by the spiritual things, by the transcendent. Everybody talks about quantum realities now. And so
Yeah.
from the point of view of the Bible, the that transcendent thing is how the Spirit operates. And so we are either, from my perspective, controlled by the Spirit of God or not by the Spirit of God. There's really nothing in between.
Mhm.
And once that influence, and for those who don't believe that, that becomes their purpose, their higher calling, whatever it is that they that is bigger than themselves. And so
Yeah.
that informs then how they engage their mind. In turn, then, mind affects their emotional state, which is operated through the brain, and the body just follows. So when you have illness or sickness, the body just responds to what is translated down from that top.
Mhm.
And so when I think about the mind, it's very broad. That's where your memories are, where your decision making is, your will is, how you determine the world outside of you, what influences your ability to think and perceive and create important perspectives on life. And when we think about mind, oftentimes people don't really understand that the mind is divided. The mind is composed of two entities, if you will. We have a conscious mind that is focused in the moment, understands processes, which is what you and I are using right now. We're
Mhm.
engaged. When I create movement, you pay attention, it immediately gets processed, and you reason through things as you are listening to me and communicating with me. But then there is a bigger, deeper portion of what makes up the mind, and that's the subconscious part of it. It's, people have compared it to an iceberg. You see a tiny little bit at the top, the majority of the weight is at the bottom. And we operate oftentimes, out of 90% of the time, we operate from a subconscious mind. And that's a massive, massive chunk that creates the reality, for us. And so when I talk about the mind, those are the two very important parts that people need to understand and reconcile in order to heal.
Do you? This is this is a question which is off the shelf, but do you have you experienced? And because using the rational mind is pretty easy. Every management environment use rational thinking to do everyday job.
Yes.
It's very difficult to find someone
Mm,
that use subconscious as a tool in
yes.
management. Have you
Yeah.
experienced someone which is doing it sensibly well? I mean, that you recognize as someone that is using it as a tool in your experience or not?
Um, I think the way a subconscious can become a tool is by creating a habit that becomes so natural to you that you don't even think about anymore. So when you become good at something, to the extent where you don't even think about how to do this job well or how to execute the task well, it becomes part of your subconscious. So you stop trying to make so much sense of it and
Rationalize.
rationalize and just think of it too intensely. It gets translated into a subconscious mind, and now it's a habit. Like when you brush your teeth, you don't think about it. When you drive a car, you don't think about it because it's become a subconscious way of your system to operate and go, why, this is just part of who I am. And so I
Mhm.
think that becomes our personality after a while. So if you decide you want to change your habits and perhaps wake up earlier than you do, it's very frustrating, and it's difficult and challenging for people who aren't used to it. And the conscious effort that is required in order to make that happen initially is going to be part of what you engage. However, once that becomes a habit and a consistently repeated pattern, then the effort is no longer really there because it just became part of who you are. And so for people who use, as you say, subconscious in the workplace or in management, are the people who have created the habits that influence the outside world so well because they have become part of who they are. They transformed themselves. And so far, yes, I've seen a lot of people who have
Yes,
grown and changed and now affect
what
others.
in the past years I've been maturing an habit, which I want to explain you is connected with what I do in the evening before of going to sleep.
Okay.
So if I read something which is an issue which I have to solve,
Yes.
which is complex, which is
Yes.
difficult to grasp in a rational way, and I go to sleep soon after,
Mm-hmm.
the day after I wake up and I have thought at night about that topic and I have a solution for it.
Yes.
And this start by chance. I mean, I was not controlling it actually.
Yeah.
But I realized that then I could use it as a
Yeah.
tool. But now I use it
Yes.
every once in a while because the problem is that then at night, during the night, I have a lot of REM activity
Of
because
course. Sure.
my subconscious is working
Yes.
and I don't sleep well, so I
Yes.
don't sleep in the right way. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to stop it now. But
Good. Okay.
I found this very powerful because one of the problem in companies is that one of the problem are routine. You do things always in the same way,
Yes.
but sometime out of the blue the environment change, and so you
Yep.
have to change the routine,
Of
but you are
course.
not able to change it because you are
Yeah.
so stuck in them that you don't have another way of doing it.
Yeah.
I think that this is a problem that a lot of company face, and a lot of that 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 is, behind this there is a very strong potential
Yes.
using. Today we talk about technology. We will talk about AI later,
Mm.
and but there is not enough attention on how we use our brain
Yeah.
because
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, we talk about systems and processes and how to if A then B, B then C, and but if you're dealing with people, you're dealing with with people who are influenced by the subconscious mind. And like I said, most of the people operate out of a 90% of their mind, which is the subconscious mind. And sometimes they're not even aware. So being able to identify that, understand that, and help guide people that way by the management. And if not the management, then the people who management assigns that task to is really, really important. Because one of the things I say, if you have a frustration with an employee, for instance, or a peer coworker, it doesn't matter. Chances are you're probably not really talking to that 30-year-old or 50-year-old person. You're talking to some 6-year-old or 7-year-old kid that is disguised as that person of older
yeah,
age, who
absolutely.
hasn't, right, who's either number one, unaware, or hasn't processed what is influencing his behavior that shows up 40 years later or 30 years later. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And you have been telling me that you do some work with the corporation company, big company, in order to, get them aware of mental health and mental
mhm.
power, and the topic we are discussing.
Yes.
What is your perspective on this? What you do? How this is will come in the companies?
Yeah.
How much is there to be done still?
Yeah.
I would like to have a window on that.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I did a presentation for an HR group here in the US, and it was on mental resilience in the workplace. And when we originally wrote the proposal, the company came back and said that it's not being approved for continuing education because it's not an HR topic, which was so funny to me.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Right. And I said, do you deal with people? They said, well, it's HR. It's an HR topic. So then, of course, we tweaked the wording a little bit, and the big bosses in the somewhere where we don't ever see them were satisfied, and we presented, and of course, it was relevant and important. I mean, so in the presentations that I do for the companies, usually I go through 7 different modules that I wrote, and the 7 modules have to do with. I want to make sure that I have all of them. I'm looking up exactly how I position it. But number 1 has to do with the environment in the workplace and
Mhm.
the transformation of the brain. So the environment makes a difference on how the brain operates, right?
Yeah.
Then we talk about the divided mind, something you and I discussed already, to help people understand how to not engage or get to the frustrated point, because you have to remember that you're not dealing with rational behavior sometimes. Then we talk about integrating the whole human, that you cannot just get to the healing or the success by neglecting either the body or the heart or the mind or the spirit. Like you're saying, you can't sleep properly. That affects how you work the next day. That affects your
Absolutely.
resilience. That affects your productivity, your tired state. Then we talk about mental framing, and that's a very important aspect of what perspective you position an event or a project into, and whether or not you
Key.
complain about it all day or you reframe it as something that will get you to success. We also talk about staying in the present and why being in the present moment is very relevant. Most people are frustrated and distracted by the past or by the future. Past, you have guilt and shame and regret. Future, you have fear and anxiety. And so helping people understand how exactly you get into the present moment and focus on what's there is very helpful for a company and the employees to get to the successful outcome that they're looking for. And then we talk about emotions and and purpose of the emotions. Unfortunately, most people, and I work with the veterans and I work with the law enforcement, I work with some tough people. Yeah,
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
and these are the men and women who are taught, suck it up, be the the boss, don't handle it like a man, or whatever the phrases are. And there's such a stigma attached to processing mental and emotional stuff. But I think just like we understand the way the brain works, or a human shoulder works, or a nervous system, it really makes a difference for people to understand what specifically is the function and the purpose of an emotion. It's there for a reason. The problem becomes when we misuse it and allow it to influence us in a way that it's not designed to. And so that chapter addresses that. And then finally, I talk about knowing your limits. And what does that really mean? How do you create boundaries that tell you, I can no longer push myself? Yes, I have to finish this project. And yes, we need to do it this way. However, how can I tweak it and make small adjustments if I don't have sufficient amount of time, or an opportunity to create the the room for myself so that I am productive and I am useful and I'm not collapsing. So that is the curriculum that we take the companies through.
What is the response of the company
I
to
think of people, it
your?
makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. I mean, the productivity is different. The absenteeism shrinks when people deal with it. The interaction, interpersonal communication is different.
But the
Um,
manager realized that. I mean, they experience they have a concrete feedback that this is working for
yeah.
them,
Oh,
or
yeah.
they do it
So that.
just because they have to do it, or because it's fancy to do it.
Yes.
One of the things that struck me, I have been reading a book, Humanocracy, from Gary Hamel and an Italian guy, which I don't remember the name.
Interesting.
It's one of the book of this year that shocked me the most.
Mm,
They talk about engagement in the workplace, and they say
yeah.
that 70% of the employees in US are not engaged with their company.
Yeah. It's very disappointing. Yeah. And so one of the ways, there are three, I help my clients in three different ways. One of them is with the purpose clarity. And the Bible says, my people perish for the lack of vision. Okay. Companies and individuals perish when they don't have the purpose and the clarity of why are you here and how do your skills, gifting, and service combined is there to do the best of what you have for others that surround you. And aligning your personal purpose with the company that you're there to serve and to
Is
work with is critical, because now people aren't frustrated that they're being abused or misused somehow, or somehow they don't fit in the big picture. If you have salespeople and you have 15 different kind of salespeople, not everybody is going to be able to sell the same way, but they're going to sell. They're just going to use their experience, gifting, skills, communication ability in a completely different way. So, understanding that you're unique and designed in a very specific way makes a massive difference in getting people to converge the purpose and then use it together for what the company is doing.
now I ask you something that is a little bit off this whole background, but this whole discussion. How, as an individual, I understand that I am a little bit off in my mental capability. What is the signal that should be that I should watch in order to
Yeah.
see, well, I need to do something, and what, when I realize that I am a little bit off, what I can do in order to
Very good
reframe
question.
myself.
So again, I will take you back to those four aspects of what make us human: your spirit, your mind, your heart, or your body. If you are aware and you pay attention, you will be able to tell when your body is showing signs of fatigue or pain, or and a lot of times people ignore it or they dismiss it, in
Yeah,
some way. But that is
because
an
we
important.
we are surrounded by automatic thinking.
Yeah,
Now, there are a lot of things that go on and on and on, and it seems
sure.
that everything is automatic, and we are not aware because everything flows.
Exactly.
That is the
Yes.
first problem.
Yes, so paying attention is really important. People call it awareness. I said pay attention to what's happening with your body. If your calves are tight, there's a reason for why they're tight. I used to one of my certifications was as a personal trainer. So many years ago, I trained people as a personal trainer. And if somebody has an issue with their traps in their neck, you check their heels and you check their calves, because
Yeah.
everything is interconnected, right? So paying attention to that emotional state. Oftentimes you see people react in some way and you think, my goodness, that was over the top, that was disproportionate with what is actually happening. When that happens, your emotional state is telling you, hello, you have to pay attention to this. Something is out of line. Okay. When your mind creates depressive state or fear state or guilt state in your thinking, that's a sign, and you should be aware of that. There's something, I'm not at peace. Why not? you know and the disturbance of the spirit is the same thing. And so all of those four things will create a dissonance and disharmony with how you, because you always, when you're at your best, in your best state, how to compare to when you are functional and you are happy and at peace and focused, and the minute something something changes, that should be an indicator that something is out of place. And so being able to find it, the easiest way would be, let me check my body, let me check my heart, let me check my mind, let me check my spirit. Where is the disconnect?
Beautiful, really beautiful. I thinking about my last experiences, I discovered that balancing oneself, meaning check if you are properly set up within yourself, is key
Yes,
to everything.
100%, for sure.
And I am an Italian, so I used to be everything but balanced because we have this culture which is very,
Yeah, I love it.
very chaotic. But
Yes,
balancing is first of all a way to respect yourself
sure.
and to hear about what is happening in yourself. But
Yes,
also is also a very good way to approach people
yes.
because it's just like to go to someone and show yourself tidy and
Yeah,
clean.
sure.
So I think that understanding you understand if there is something that is not working
Right.
by seeing if you are
Yes.
balanced in within, let's say.
Yes, exactly. And so for
Uh,
management, for instance, or CEOs or people who have people working for them, one of the things that I recommend is when you enter your space, whatever that is, your office, your environment, just take one minute, maybe even 30 seconds, just to observe what is happening. You know, who is behaving how, who is slouched, who is maybe staring into space. Those little signs that will tell you something's off with this guy, or his shirt is too wrinkled, or like you said, there are indicators that once you start training your eye to see it, then you'll be a lot easier to identify and just kind of get the temperature of what's happening in your environment and your workplace, and then addressing that can transform how an employee responds, or how employee engages, or how grateful they are for attention that you've given them.
very, very beautiful. Thank you very much.
Mm,
This
mm.
is I think that this is very precious. Last question.
Yes,
Well, I have a lot of questions in my because I am I have been a technologist, so I've been working with AI when I was very young,
yes,
and a lot of people ask me about AI. They are scared about AI taking their job,
yes,
all this kind of, and I have a very strong humanistic perspective. I
yes,
don't think that AI will never substitute any human actually
of course.
unless we transform a human being in an automatic machine. But
Yeah,
that is this is not the AI fault; is our fault.
yes.
What do you think about this? What do you think about this debate?
Um,
Say,
yeah, I think uh, anything that any innovation, any piece of technology, as we have seen, can be used either for good or for evil. And as is the case with all the things that would deal with the social media, or the weapons, or you name it, the nuclear power. And so I think AI obviously was developed with the extraordinary potential, and it can be incredibly helpful as an assistant, to simplify our tasks and simplify, how we operate. I don't believe that there are things that AI will never be able to do, because AI has no soul, so it can train forever and ever and know how to respond according to the best possible practice that is written. But AI is not going to pick up on you tearing up. It's not going to pick up on you nodding or looking away, where I'm going to stop and say, why are you, what was that about? What is it really that you're not telling me, or what is it that's hurting? So um yes, I mean, AI is replacing a lot of things, but AI is not a human and will never be a human. So
the brain is absolutely something else. Is a
Oh, it's extraordinary. It's
completely
designed by God from my point of view. You cannot replace
absolutely
God's design. You can
no,
only imitate, and you can only take what's already there made by him and only, create the semblance of it and create out of that image that's already been made. But he's the grand designer, and there are systems and there's a wisdom to how he made what he made that is irreplaceable.
Thank you very much. Has been fantastic. I think that it will not be the last episode
I
that
hope
we will
not.
record. It will not. I'm sure that
Yes,
we will not.
great,
So I thank you
great.
very much, and good luck for anything that you love to do, and we will reconnect soon. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Maurizio.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Bye bye. Thanks for listening to this episode. Follow the show so you don't miss any episode. And remember, for those looking for the secret sauce, there is none in the soup.